So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about the background of stammering. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges people who stammer face when they come into contact with healthcare systems and healthcare staff and organisations. And we're going to talk a little bit at the end about some of the resources and support that are available out there. And now I'm handing over to Jack.
Hi there, everyone. The obvious place to start is just by having a think about what is stammering, in fact. And it's a complicated beast. It's a speech difference. It's a way in which about 1% or more of the adult population speak that is different from the familiar fluent speech. It is neurologically based. There are things happening in the brain, and there's that make it happen. And there's a lot of research about this at the moment. And there's nothing definitive yet, but it's clearly a neurological thing. I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't understand any of this, but the way I explain it to myself is that the parts of the brain that deal with the processing and the generation of language get out of sync with the parts of the brain that deal with the dozens of different muscles involved in the production of the sounds of speech. And this lack of sync sets up a sort of a feedback loop, which means that it's intermittently physically hard to speak. And intermittently physically hard there's a lot in those three words, in fact. It is hard to actually produce the sounds. It's not something that can be easily solved just by being told to slow down or to take a deep breath. It's physical work. It can be exhausting. You'll see in a few minutes a video where lots of different people are stammering, and you can see the physical work that is going into that. And it is intermittent. Not only is everybody who stammers will stammer in a slightly different way, but everybody who stammers will also stammer differently at different times. And their stammer will change as they age and in different situations. The aspects of stammering that you will normally see or hear are the getting stuck on words, the blocking that you've been hearing me do over the last couple of minutes. People also repeat sounds, the classic comedy routine of can't you remember your name? And people prolong sounds, often at the start of words. There's often also signs of this physical effort, obviously in the mouth, the face, the shoulders, but also often in other parts of the body. People will often tap their hands or their feet, trying to help force a word out. Many people who stammer will change the words that they're going to say often at the last moment, so that they can actually find a word that is easier for them to say. This is known as word swapping. I am one of the world experts at word swapping. You will probably be able to see or hear me doing it constantly over the next hour or so. And finally, there's a lot of stammering that isn't visible, in fact, especially because as many people who stammered have negative feelings about stammering, so they will try and hide it. The classic example is ordering a coffee at Starbucks. So you would start by going to the back of the queue so that when you got to give your order, there weren't as many people around to hear you. You would then ask for a latte because you don't feel able to do the hard K of a cappuccino. And you then suddenly think, I can't say my name, Jack, so I shall be Mike instead. All of this will actually sound fluent, but there's a lot of stuff going on underneath to give that false impression of fluency.
Thanks, Jack. So we're just going to show you a 2-minute video. This is the one that Jack referred to, where you get to see lots of people who stammer.
Hi, we'd like to share a little bit of information with you about stammering.
Stammering is the way some of us talk. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just different.
Stammering doesn't mean I'm nervous or unsure about what I want to say. It just means that sometimes it will take me a little bit more time to get the word out that I want to say.
How much I stammer varies from day to day and situation to situation.
Hi, I'm Nicole. Lots of people who stammer find situations such as having to say their name, using the phone, or ordering in a restaurant challenging. As you probably can tell, I find saying my name particularly difficult.
Sometimes, actually quite often, I swap words so that I can get my message across.
Sometimes I hide my stammering by choosing not to talk or by talking less.
Talking to someone who's stammering can be difficult when you're not used to it. That's okay. Just hang on in there and be patient.
Don't try and guess what I'm saying, just wait and let me finish.
Stammering is the way some of us talk. It's not good or bad, it's just different.
Okay, so Angelica closed that video by saying, stammering is the way some of us talk. It's not good or bad, it's just different. But it just being different doesn't stop many people looking for a cure. And the brutal answer to is there a cure is no. It will sometimes reduce or disappear entirely as you get older. But that is not really much of a consolation for a young person who's trying to fit in with their peers. And so many young people, many adults who stammer are looking for ways that they can have some sort of control over their fluency. And there are many techniques that can help some people some of the time. And there are also phone apps that can help you use a few of these techniques. But again, these are not for everyone. In my personal experience, in my 20s, a speech therapist helped me with techniques for breathing, for relaxation, and for something called slowed speech, where I spoke on a continuous breath very slowly and trying to keep in one continuous stream, which was wonderful. It meant I could answer the phone for the first time in my life, but it was also really hard work, and it was almost as tiring as stammering. And it's not something that I have chosen to keep up. Instead, I, along with many other people who stammer, found it a lot more useful, in fact, to find ways of working with a stammer, accepting it, and communicating through stammering. And this is largely the approach of modern speech therapy now, which focuses on valuing confident communication and helping people learn how to say what they want to say, when they want to say it, and to speak up for themselves, regardless of the level of fluency that they might be experiencing. And often the best cure is for organizations to make space for stammering. We have ramps, we have hearing loops, we have subtitles, we have translations, we have lots of things to help other people with different impairments. And often what people who stammer are asking for is not as complicated as this. They are simply asking for a little time and a little respect. And that is often the best cure. Okay, thank you, Kirsten.
So we're going to have a quick dash through some of the barriers and challenges that people who stammer experience when they come into contact with healthcare systems particularly. So these are all real life quotes, real life stories from people who stammer talking about their interactions with healthcare. So we've got a range of stories from people having to phone up. Perhaps they're phoning to book an appointment, or they're calling a GP surgery or an outpatient clinic. But here are the examples. So somebody told us about that they told me that they couldn't hear me properly because of the signal from my phone. But it wasn't my phone, it was me stammering. Someone else, there's usually a queue on the phone waiting to be answered, which just increases the anxiety whilst waiting for my turn in the queue, going over and over in my mind what I need to say. I was really struggling on the phone, like the kind of block where you're not even saying anything. That person just hung up on me. They cut me off several times, clearly frustrated by my pauses and my repetitions. I felt rushed, as though I was just an inconvenience. And someone else, things took a turn for the worse when I heard laughter at the other end of the line. I was crushed. The humiliation was unbearable, and I hung up. Jack, over to you.
We know that health professionals are under enormous stress and enormous time pressures, but it really isn't helpful when that time pressure is then moved on to the person who stammers. So one person told us, I struggled to tell them why I was there and what my name was. Then they asked which medication I was after, and I didn't get past the first syllable before they finished the word for me. In the end, they didn't even have my prescription, so I went through all that for nothing. I cried when I got home.
There's also, you might be surprised, there really are examples where people have just been mocked or laughed at for stammering. So this one was somebody collecting their prescription from pharmacy. I gave my name so they could get my prescription. That's my address. And I stuttered on the number 2. The staff member repeated 222, laughing at me. I've lived with a stutter for over 50 years and I thought I'd left this sort of mocking long behind me. Someone else in a hospital this time, visiting a family member. I asked a senior nurse which bay my wife was in and I stammered. She burst out laughing.
And then this is surprisingly common, that stammering is construed as a symptom of other things, is often construed as a symptom of fraud. And this person said, they refused to speak to me about my own medical condition as I was being hesitant when giving my date of birth. So they believed I wasn't their patient. And this isn't just humiliating, it's potentially dangerous. Another person said they thought I was trying to impersonate somebody else because I couldn't share my details fast enough. So I didn't get my medication.
And that stammering being misinterpreted, being taken as a sign of something else. We sometimes see that within within diagnosis too. And within diagnosis, there's a big difference between somebody for whom stammering is a new thing, like maybe somebody who is, a middle-aged adult who has never stammered before, and stammering is a new symptom. At that point, it would be really appropriate to use stammering within diagnosis. But for someone who stammers all their life, this is a fundamental part of the way they talk. But it's quite often sort of misused within diagnosis. So somebody here, I've had a prescription for a controlled drug for the past 5 years, and every year I have to have a review. This year, the pharmacist added a note to my prescription saying speech was slow, check before issuing. I'm now worried that I'll lose access to a prescription that I need due to their worries that I'm abusing the drug. So that perfectly normal pattern of speech for that person being interpreted as a side effect of the drug. And here we have a video where Sophia is going to tell us about an experience she'd had. And what's important to know is that Sophia is a healthcare worker herself.
Recently I was put on a new medication that one of the side effects was a headache, and I was discussing this with a GP over the phone, and they made a connection, I'd say a false connection, between the headache that I had for this medication and anxiety, which they saw as my stammer as evidence of that, suggesting that perhaps the fact that I was stammering was because I was anxious, and the anxiety would cause the headache, which I found that really frustrating, as well as quite alarming actually. And as soon as I switched medication, I no longer had the headache. And
so that's really interesting, because Sophia works within the healthcare system herself. She was able to advocate for herself in that setting. She's quite a senior healthcare specialist, so she was able to advocate for herself and challenge the doctor. But most patients were probably not feeling in a position to do that. So this is why one of the sort of recommendations we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes is really relevant to preventing these situations where stammering is misinterpreted, stammering being used as an indication of something else rather than just being seen as itself, that this is somebody who stammers. Jack, handing over to you.
Okay. So as Kirsten said, we're going to look at some recommendations now, and these largely fall into 4 main areas. And we can start with it's a very obvious one of how to talk with the patients. And a really important aspect of this is having a process for dealing with silent calls. A silent call is where where the phone rings, you pick it up, and nothing happens. And this can be, in fact, a sign that somebody is trying to talk to you, but because they are blocking on, because of their stammer, they are blocking, and they can't say anything, and you can't hear anything. There's quite a simple way of dealing with this, and it's something which really all receptionists should be aware of. We have at Stamma a script that can help you take somebody through a silent call, and we'll give you the links later to the patient contact guide that actually contains this script. But largely it's a matter of giving people time, not just hanging up as soon as you don't hear anything, but saying, I'm here if you need time to start talking, that's okay. I shall wait for you, and then possibly offering other ways that the person might access you. It's a matter of allowing time, and this really is key to a lot of talking with patients, just allowing time. It really is a case of more haste to less speed. When you're trying to rush somebody who stammers, things are just going to get slower. And you and they will get equally frustrated in all probability. Finishing the sentence, allowing people to finish their sentence at their own speed and in their own way is really important. It is probably the number one thing that people who stammer say that they hate other people doing. They hate, in most cases, they hate people finishing their words for them or finishing their sentences for them. This isn't 100% true. If somebody has got really stuck and is really blocking, they might appreciate help, but 99% of the time, it's a classic no-no. It's not just slightly disrespectful, it can also be really unhelpful. You're trying to help, but you're not if you get the word wrong, because that means the person who's stammering has got to say, no, that isn't what I meant, and go back to the start and start all over again. Again, it's more haste, less speed. You're trying to help, you're trying to make things quicker, and you're just slowing everything down. We've already talked about mistaking stammering for other things, and this is distressingly, frustratingly common, in fact, in legal and in health settings. Unlike fluent people, unlike people who naturally speak fluently, who may think that stammering is a sign that they're nervous or that they're unprepared or that there's something else going on. For somebody who stammers, a stammer is just a stammer. It's just It's just how they talk. It's just what happens. It doesn't suggest anything else. It doesn't suggest nervousness. It doesn't suggest that you're trying to be evasive, or that there is the influence of alcohol or a drug going on. Speaking personally, I've had people think that I was being nervous, that I was woefully unprepared for the situation, or that I was drunk. And in fact, in my life, I've been all of these, but stammer has never been an indicator of that. In fact, I would argue that there have been times when a high degree of nervous energy or a quick drink has actually improved fluency in the short term. So don't mistake stammering for... Stammering doesn't indicate anything except stammering. Okay, Kirsten.
Thank you. So when we think about, those risks of stammering being misconstrued or misinterpreted, and how that might actually have consequences for someone's healthcare, for example, if they can't get their medication because a pharmacist won't hand it out, because when they stammered on their own name, the pharmacist wondered if they weren't that person. If you work in healthcare and you do have the option for patient record flags, stammering can be a great reason to do that, so being able to offer the option to all your patients to have important information flagged on their record if they want it. For those people who stammer, who do want it on their record, it can really help to sidestep so many of those issues. So if you know that stammering is normal for that person and it's on their record, stammering is part of this person, the way this person speaks, then it doesn't need to have an unfortunate effect on those procedures where you might have to ID yourself, or where it can remove the risk of stammering being misused within a diagnostic situation. So patient record flagging can be a really, really great tool for working well with patients who stammer. Back to you, Jack.
Okay. Flexible communication channels. This is the third recommendation, and it really is all about not trying to force square pegs into round holes. Have a think about your processes and about your technology. Are they just forcing people down a single avenue, or do you have alternatives? Is it possible to speak to a real human? Do you have text to a speech? Do you have web chat? Do you have email? There are many ways that people can communicate with you, and these should be available. Specifically, if you have a voice recognition system, this is something that is detested by most of the population, I think, but especially people who stammer. So if you have a voice recognition system, try and ensure that there is an alternative, that there is another way of getting through, or at the very least that the system is sophisticated enough to cope with delayed or slow or broken speech. Ultimately, we all know about patient choice, and patient choice should really extend to this, to allowing people choice over their own communication channels with you. Thank you.
And if you work, particularly perhaps in a sort of a reception environment, if you're frontline staff who are meeting patients coming in for appointments or booking appointments. Or perhaps if you're a patient who's had some challenges with perhaps with your GP surgery or with your pharmacy and feel that you're just not getting that space, we do have some posters available that people can kind of put up in those busy frontline environments, just to remind staff working there that about this thing, that ID information, having to say your name or your address or perhaps your NHS numbers, it tends to be these things where there's not another way to say it. So if you have a strategy of word swapping, that strategy is taken away from you in that moment. So if you stammer on these things, then all you've got left is to stand there and stammer through them. So we do have these posters, and it might be interesting for you to know that there was a recent survey done with about 1,500 people, and about half of the survey respondents stammer. And about half of them don't. And one of the questions in the survey was to rate, basically on a scale from very easy to very difficult, how easy or difficult is it for you to say your name on demand? And interestingly, 6% of people who don't stammer said it was difficult or really difficult for them. But 83% of people who stammer said it was difficult or really difficult for them to say their name on demand. So when we think about how often in healthcare situations, that's the thing you've got to do right at the top, is to say your name. That's obviously then going to be very stressful for people who stammer, knowing that, oh, this is how this whole interaction is going to start right at the top. We've got to get through this bit. But also, obviously, you know, it is surprising if you're on the other end of that and you didn't know that person stammered. But yes, you might find these posters, they're just A4 posters that can be put up in those busy areas, just to remind those staff that it's normal for people who stammer to find that difficult. So just allow a little bit of space around that moment so that you can both work through that interaction.
And Stammer has a wealth of resources to help with this. The patient contact guide, if you go on to the Stammer website and search for patient contact guide, this comes up at the top of the search. And it's a 14-page PDF document. It's based on the healthcare survey that Stammer did in 2023, and it has recommendations on how you can start to look at structural changes, how you can talk to people who stammer, and it has the script for silent calls. So that's a short visual and really useful guide. There's for people who don't stammer, it's often really surprising and disconcerting to talk to somebody who does, and there is naturally uncertainty of what to do, how to behave. On the Stammer website, there's a really useful page called In Conversation with Someone Who Stammers. If you go onto the Stammer website, you go into the About section and then into the Guides for Non-Stammerers section. And this guide gives you pointers to think about, ways to react, and links to other resources. You can affiliate your organization to Stammer. In Kirsten's phrase, this is as cheap as chips, but it is a useful resource. It gives you access to workshops and to a sector-specific quarterly newsletter. Our employment service will also help you if you come into contact with, if your role involves patient contact, and will help you on many different things. One of the common ones are structural changes and reasonable adjustments. And you can contact us by email or phone.
Thanks, Jack. And it's just occurred to me something that I should have said right at the start of the session and forgot. One of the, I mean, there are generally more people who stammer than is often regarded. We're not a particularly rare breed, so there's real value in, you know, in making changes for that. You know, 8% of children will stammer for at least a while, at least 1% of adults stammer. So there's real value in making organisational change to support those people and to make sure that those people can access services. But also the changes that organisations make will often benefit a far broader range of patients as well. So it's almost as if you can take people who stammer as a way to make the topic tangible, or to be able to think through it and look at where those barriers might be and what simple changes might be done. But knowing that they will also benefit far more people than just that percentage of the population who stammers. We did say that we would talk a little bit more broadly about what's available for people who stammer. So as the National Stammering Charity, we provide support, information, workshops, groups and community for people who stammer. We do that in a range of ways. We do that through the website, and we do that through online workshops, and we do that through in-person and online groups and communities. And some of those groups are geographically based. Some of them might be based around particular topics or even particular employers. So for example, some county councils have staff networks for people who stammers. The BBC and the NHS have staff networks for people who stammers. There are also some groups which might be based around ages, like young persons networks, or around topics of interest such as spirituality and stammering. So there's a whole range of groups and communities out there for people who are interested. But we do know that the research tells us that that having those networks and connections can be really beneficial in terms of quality of life and in terms of that confidence to get out there and, you know, live the life that you want to, whatever those choices you make are. I mentioned that 8% of children stammer for at least a while, and that means parents are often looking for support. There'll be lots of parents for whom stammering might be very new and they're trying to work out how to parent and support a child who stammers. So again, we have a lot of support for parents, and that ranges from online workshops to an annual family day for parents and kids. And we also have peer support groups for parents, which are facilitated by other parents of children who stammer. They're online, so they're open to anyone in the UK. We run online Minecraft groups for children who stammer. So children who stammer, despite the fact, again, there are lots of them out there, sometimes they can feel very alone, like nobody else gets this, no one else understands what it's like to be a child or young person who stammers. So our Minecraft groups are a great place for children and young people to come together and meet other kids who stammer, but doing something that they enjoy. Because if you don't know Minecraft, it's an online video game. It's like catnip for children. So lots of children really love Minecraft. So they're able to come together and play Minecraft together, but they're also all on Zoom at the same time. They're all chatting away. They're all using their beautiful stammering voices and getting to meet one another and feel part of that community. And we provide lots of support and guidance for employers and organisations, and we've touched on some of those things. And we also provide specialist guidance on reasonable adjustments. And if you are someone who stammers and you find that there are perhaps aspects of your life or aspects of the way your, I don't know, your cricket club or your chess club is run, and those ways of working kind of like prevent you from getting involved or getting involved to the extent you want. Perhaps if there are particular exams you need to sit, and again, the way the exam is, the procedures of that exam, in relation to your stammering, limit your ability to show people what you can do. You have a legal right to, they're called reasonable adjustments within the law, and we can help you think through what those adjustments might be and how you go about requesting them. Yeah, and also doing some of the stuff around working with businesses and organisations on how they can just make space and value stammered speech in their interactions, both with their staff and with their customers and service users.
And all of that is available, and we also offer support not just for people who stammer, but for families and anybody in contact with people who stammer. You can email us anytime, and the response is often quicker than three days. But if you want instant response, there's a helpline, and a web chat service is open Mondays to Thursdays, 10 till 2 and 4 until 8. And you can call, and the people on the helpline and web chat are largely either speech and language professionals or people who stammer, or in some cases they are speech and language professionals who also stammer, and they are there to try and help you with whatever query you might have, or to signpost you onto somebody who can help. So that's Monday to Thursdays, morning and afternoon. If you're unlucky, you'll get me, but you stand a very high chance of getting somebody who will be useful and helpful. Okay.
Yeah, you do make me laugh. Tim and Laura, I don't know, do you collect feedback from your sessions?
Yes, we do, yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, I will take this off the screen then. And yeah. Hang on. Stopping the share. I can just quietly upload the patient contact guide. So I'll just go and see if Zoom will let me attach that in the chat.
Well, thank you very much for that, whilst you're doing that. We'll take questions now. So if people want to put questions in the chat, then we'll do our best to answer them, or Kirsten and Jack will, I should say, because I know nothing about stammering really, apart from I do have a stammer which is caused by Parkinson's. So you mentioned before that some people are affected by speech who don't have for a reason other than stammering as an organic reason to stammer. So some of the things you talked about were very close to the bone for me, so very helpful, thank you. So if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat.
I'm just going to say, Tim, whilst people are doing that, that's so, for example, one of the support groups we have is adults new to stammering, and that is often, there might be people who, for example, like stammering has come as part of Parkinson's disease, or perhaps associated with a stroke. So they've experienced a big change. They've lived for many years as a fluent speaker, and now something has changed. So like one of the peer support groups we have, it's very much around kind of that experience. So like, it doesn't matter when you started stammering, you can join sort of any of the groups, but that one has that particular focus on that. People who are just like, kind of like working out this really new experience for them and what this means for their lives, and being able to share with one another what they've found helpful and haven't, and also just like have fun together too, you know, still finding that like joy in communicating, even if that communication style might have changed or be changing.
And that's an online group, is it? You said. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So we don't seem to have many questions. I've got a question, which is probably a very basic and schoolboy error type of question, but what's the difference between stuttering and stammering? Is there any medical difference, or is it just two words for the same thing?
Jack, do you want to take this one?
Okay. The easy answer is that there is no difference at all. Both stuttering and stammering mean the same thing. Stammering is more commonly used, is the term more commonly used in the United Kingdom. Stuttering is the term more commonly used in the United States. I have a personal unvalidated belief, and if anybody wants to fund my research, please get in touch, that there is a slight, that there's an isogloss or something somewhere around about Oxford, and stammering is slightly more common a term in the south of England, and stuttering is slightly more common in Midlands and the north, but that I have no proof of that at all.
That's very interesting. Regional dialects, a lot to answer for.
Yes.
Well, it looks like we haven't got any further questions, I think. So that leads me to thank you very much for your time and for giving me a fascinating presentation. As we said at the start, for those who arrived late, we recorded this session, so we're putting a copy of this on our website, or our online events webpage. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a good afternoon and a good weekend as well. Bye.
Okay, goodbye then.